raising hands. So many sugar industries are also participating in this. So I request everyone to have posters, banners in the local languages at different places, and these should be displayed prominently, and appropriate behavior should be followed by everyone, so that mills can operate without any hindrance and without any shutdown due to more or more people falling in the COVID thing. So besides economic sustainability, we also need to be environmentally sustainable. We have already started producing green power from the bagasse, which has reduced the dependency on the coal-based thermal power. And we have also started replacing this fossil fuel through ethanol. Other than this, we also need to do on the waterfront, the effluent should be less from the sugar industry. Water which is coming out of the sugar industry, that is also should be like people can drink it, or it can be used in irrigation. So I am happy that NSI Kanpur, with collaboration with the Central Pollution Control Board and the sugar industry, they have done a lot of work. The sugar industry, which earlier used to be very polluting, now the effluents are within the standard. And I think in time to come and in few years, the sugar industry can also be treated as a green industry. I'm confident that the discussions during this conference would help the countries in Asia to draw a vision plan for meeting their domestic and international requirement, and also on benchmarking of effectiveness at farm and factory level. The sugar industry, in fact, can be converted as a hub of bioenergy and bioproducts. I also wish that the learned experts may also deliberate on production of many other value-added items utilizing the byproduct resources of the sugar industry. So I again wish this conference a great success. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable words, for blessings for us, for the success of the seminar. Now, sir, I will hand over to our director for further proceeding. Sir, whether our secretary, our secretary will speak, you can invite him.
Sir, Secretary sir is already there, so I take this opportunity to request him to kindly bless us with his valuable words.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, especially all our international delegates. We would have actually loved to welcome them physically in India, but for this pandemic, which is, I think, disrupted everyone's life, and no one knows when it is going to go away, how the life after the pandemic is going to shape up. Notwithstanding these uncertainties, life has to go on. And therefore, human civilization has always survived with innovation, facing all challenges. I'm sure this is one of those challenges which also will be overcome by the mankind with collective effort, both nationally as well as internationally. Let me first of all congratulate Dr. Narendra Mohan, National Sugar Institute, all your colleagues, and my colleague Subodh, who has been driving a lot of activity in sugar sector, despite many restrictions that we all face these days with respect to interaction, meetings, physical movement. Despite that, lot is happening. The ground activity has not stopped fully. In fact, it is gaining momentum. In India, if you see, then the last week's economic report that was released, the economic activities are getting back to almost there where they used to be before pandemic. So whether it is the electricity consumption, whether it is the movement of various wheels, transport, railways, aviation. Now everything is gradually picking up. And the sugar season that is ahead of us, we very clearly see, is also going to show us that they have performed despite the pandemic, and they are going to come out with larger production this year than the last year. So we had drought in Maharashtra, which had pulled down the production last year, but this year we hope to cross 30 million ton figure, which is again going to push India among the top two. There are many issues that is confronting sugar sector, and each sector during its phases of evolution faces some very peculiar challenges. In India, as I feel, there is need to change the narrative. And when I am saying narrative, then sugar industry has always been saying that we are surplus. Now, I have a slightly different take. My take is that in India, I was reading one of the report of 2019 that the sugar per capita sugar consumption has come down by 2 kg from 2014-15 to 2017-18. It came down from 20.5 kg to 18.5 kg. Now, for a developing country like India, this is not very good sign. In fact, we already have one of the lowest sugar consumption per capita. And if it is further going down, then somewhere we as economy are not able to address issues around boosting the consumption in right segments of the society. So segments where the sugar consumption is avoided, they will continue to look for alternate sources of sweeteners, as Dr. Narendra Mohan perceived as one of the threats globally. So that threat is going to come only from countries where the per capita consumption is very high, like the North America, some parts of Europe, where the society is already affluent and they suffer from a lot of lifestyle diseases, which you now call NCDs. And therefore, for developing countries, the sugar consumption per se should not be a challenge, provided we have economic growth, we have disposable income, we have right kind of food mix, a lot of value-added products coming out of sugar. So Thailand, Indonesia, as all Southeast Asian countries are actually a very, very classic example of how they come out with a lot of value-added products around the sugar industry. So I endorse what you said right in the beginning. There are lessons to be drawn, and we have to. So one thought, which is, I think we need to take this narrative and push it all over, because even in the media, this awareness that our sugar consumption needs to be boosted is not very high. Some of the elite class have started labeling as sugar as empty calorie diet. So they say that it has a lot of calories, but these are empty. They are not good, healthy calories. So, which in my opinion is not the correct way of looking at the whole sector per se. So this is one thought which is in my mind, that how do we for developing countries collectively work to raise the level of consumption of sugar. So this could become an opportunity for all Asian and developing countries. Even in a country like Cuba, I remember a long time ago when I traveled there, I discovered that their per capita consumption of sugar is one of the highest. And it is highest because of variety of factors. I am aware of those factors also. It's not sugar per se, but it's because of variety of other factors. So this is one point. I think the entire sugar industry needs to work with institutes, academics, that the sugar narrative in developing countries has to change. And we still have a long way to go to catch up with the developed world and increase its consumption in developing countries. This is one part. The second, overall globally, the sugar production, sugar demand uh, is producing countries, actually top 5, 6 countries are same, and largely world depends, uh, and the sugar market gets shaped by production of these, I would say, 6 countries. So how they produce, whether they are producing more or less, determines the surplus available in the international market for trading. All others largely produce for their own consumption. Thailand in last 1 decade or so has seen a decline in their production. Uh, and I'm sure there are factors which they are looking at, and the India's surplus production should come handy wherever the deficit is going to be there. Uh, but India also is now diversifying its sugar use. We have come out with a policy on the biofuel, and our target is very ambitious. Our target is to reach 10% blending by 2022 and 20% blending by 2030. Now, this is not going to be possible only using the surplus sugar. Even if we have 6 to 7 million of surplus sugar, and completely it gets diverted, even then we will not be able to meet that target fully. And therefore, almost 40% of the rest of the ethanol still will have to come from other sources. And a very government is already working on the possibilities of exploring other options. Coming back to, so therefore, this point I was trying to make in respect of some of the countries who feel threatened that India's surplus is going to flood the international market with exports and is going to disturb the sugar prices. I just want to clear those doubts that that is not the scenario. In fact, domestically, our own consumption towards a diverted use of sugar is going to be of such an order that we will have actually no or very little surplus in coming years for exports, and which uh, is a situation which puts actually many countries into dilemma. And there comes the role of then the research and development, that how do you improve the recovery rate, how do you improve various varieties of sugarcane so that your overall sugarcane juice recovery from those varieties is much higher than what we are getting now. So it's going to be a situation which is going to evolve in coming years. But the global community must keep in mind that India as a country has not been a country which poses any kind of trade threat to anybody. Our policies, like the policies of Atmanirbhar Bharat, are policies which advocate your own self-sufficiency and helping others to be self-sufficient. So international cooperation is necessary to strengthen each other, and no country in the world can ever be self-sufficient in everything. It's a global community. We are interdependent on each other on so many things. And we have to realize that under this program, we excel in areas where we have the core competence and expertise, and take help of other countries or give help to other countries where they need that help. So for the sugar sector also, the same holds true. Our production, even if crossing 30 million, is not going to be a cause of concern or worry to the international community. We had a difficult period in the sense that pandemic reduced the consumption within the country. We had a challenge that the distilleries didn't have the capacity to divert the entire surplus sugar towards ethanol conversion, and therefore we aimed at export of about 6 million tons of sugar, which this year we will be meeting by and large that target. Again is going to be helpful. Indonesia has been a friend, Thailand has been a friend, and all these countries, Indonesia has taken good quantity of sugar. So it has helped the sugar industry here. It has helped the demand, meeting the demand in Indonesia. So it's a win-win situation for all of us. Another point that was mentioned here, and I'm sure in the technical session you will be discussing that, value-added products. I am a great votary of value-added products. The human society by nature is always innovating, and human taste is such that it is always experimenting, and that is how all international cuisines have become popular. India has great tradition of jaggery, and a number of fortified jaggeries, whether with turmeric or with ginger or with cinnamon, all these can be actually a terrific product on shelf to the global community. We have to develop ways and means that how they can be, because packaging and the right kind of preservation without using chemicals or harmful chemicals, that is the trick. So if we can have a product which can be preserved and marketed, has a right kind of packaging for being put on the shelf, both domestically as well as internationally, then even this product line could be a new area of attraction. Already some companies I see are experimenting, and they are coming out with some new products. But here the academia, the Sugar Institute, and such institutes globally can collaborate and come up with various innovative products. Another area that I see in the value-added products is the collaboration between the horticulture industry and the sugar industry. I am coming back to Professor Virat. Others should not feel that I'm referring to him time and again. I value the presence of all other international delegates. I can see him more prominently on the screen, and I'm reminded of some of the experiences in Thailand. Thailand has a great tradition of using and marketing dried fruit products. Now, fruit juice all we consume, but Thailand has a very unique ability to actually market a lot of dried fruit products. And he's smiling, he's understanding what I'm referring to. So in India, say for example, with mango, we only make aam papad. Now in Thailand, from dried mango, with little bit of use of sugar, you will have umpteen number of varieties.
Yeah.
And those are marketed well. They are on the shelf available, and they are a great pickup for children, for tourists, for everybody. So what I am referring to in India now, for dried horticultural products and the sugar industry, also we need to have collaboration. Sugar industry has presence across India. And in each cluster, you have some special horticulture produce where they can collaborate, they can have the research, and they can come out with a good product. I would be very happy to put you in touch with the Indian Institute of Packaging, which I looked after in the Ministry of Commerce earlier. They do actually a lot of packaging research, in fact, for all the products in India. So at any stage, if the sugar industry wants to be in touch for various creative and innovative products, Indian Packaging Institute, Mumbai, can be a great partner with whom they can work. And I would be more than happy to facilitate. It's a government-owned institute, but has done commendable work in the packaging industry in India. Whatever packaging innovation, a lot of innovation you see, they have actually originated from the Indian Packaging Institute, Mumbai. So this was my other point. The last point that I would like to make is, we hope that the pandemic impact would be over soon. But till it is there, as my colleague Subodh mentioned, in India, Honorable Prime Minister is going to launch from today the COVID appropriate protocol, which has 3 elements. This campaign will be launched today. And we are requesting all industry, because finally the victory over the pandemic and the corona virus requires very simple things. Vaccine is where all experts are working, but essentially it needs mask, hand hygiene, and physical distancing. And this whole campaign is around these 3 elements. That if we can take this message through the sugar industry to sugarcane farmers. Yesterday I was interacting with the Uttar Pradesh cane commissioner. He forwarded me a message that the UP has come out with appropriate protocol for the sugar industry because the crushing season is starting. So how the interface between the farmer and the sugarcane industry is going to be during this pandemic, they have come out with very detailed guidelines, which is going to help them fight this pandemic. So I would urge the entire industry and all my international partners that they also take this message. These are very simple message. They cost actually nothing, but can be most effective in fighting the pandemic. So with these words, I would like to wish today's Asian Sugar Conference a success. And I wish that this conference goes off the virtual platform soon and becomes a physical conference, because this sedentary life is not good for sugar industry either, which the pandemic has created. So we all need to be active, we all need to be mobile, we all need to be traveling, and that is where the energy will come from the sugar industry. So thank you very much once again to everyone who is participating. I can see now 271 participants have already logged in, which is a very, very good number. So congratulations once again to National Sugar Institute, all their partners, and the international delegates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your guiding words. I think all these words will help us to steer this sugar industry, not only India, but Asia and probably across the globe. Sir, you were talking about the packaging and Indian Institute of Packaging. So just for your information, sir, we conducted a webinar on supply chain management, and where Indian Institute of Packaging also participated.
Very good.
We had them, you know, the director of Indian Institute of Packaging spoke on various dimensions of packaging and how we can have packaging of the sugar also as a consumer friendly and the best of the, you know, the packaging which we can have for the sugar and even for the jaggery, sir. So thanks a lot, sir, for sparing your valuable time. I know you are so busy, sir, but your presence gives us a lot of inspirations and motivation, sir. So thank you so much, sir, for being here, sir. I also wish to thank Joint Secretary, sir, also for gracing this occasion, sir. Now I hand it over to Dr. Bajpayee for the technical session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wish you all success.
Thank you, sir. Now inaugural session is over, so now we can start our technical session because we are already late. Some behind some time schedule was slightly earlier. So now the first lecture of the session is from Dr. Virat Vanik Sriratna. He has to start the proceeding, and although he need no introduction for the viewers or for the participants, but even then I have to give some brief introduction. Dr. Virat Vanik Sriratna is the Associate Professor in Kasart University, Thailand. He is a PhD, Master of Engineering from the Thailand, and PhD from the Westminster, UK, and BSc Biotechnology from the Kasart University, Thailand. Mr. Virat Vanik Sriratna has presented his research works on several publications and proceedings at national and international levels. He has already given his biodata on the screen. Everybody can see. He has revised undergraduate and postgraduate curriculum in biotechnology assigned by more than 4 national universities. He has assigned as a reviewer for national research projects granted by Kurdi, NSTDA, and TRF, as well as those for national and international publications. Since 2013, he is appointed as the coordinator for cane and sugar research funding for the Thailand Research Fund. He is currently the director of Sugar Technology Program at Kasart University, Thailand. So I welcome Mr. Virat Vanik Sriratna and request him to please start his presentation for all participants. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for your introduction. And thank you very much for Professor Mohan to invite me. And thank you, Mr. Secretary and Joint Secretary, that for this event. Yeah, I would start with my presentation here. Uh, uh, can you see my slide and hear my voice?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, okay, so I will start then. So I will talk about the current status of the sugar industry in Thailand to see what happened at the moment, what happened during the COVID and during the global warming, I may say that. So what I will say, I will give the introduction to the cane production in Thailand. You will know what happened for the past around 10 years. And then the next is for the sugar production. And then what we expect for the coming milling season. Uh, in Thailand, we have the milling season start from the end of the year. So we will start it in December until around March next year. So we have the expect of the some cane production and the sugar production. And then some short information about the export. We export to where? Usually in the ASEAN country. And then for the co-product, we mentioned a lot about the co-product. Ethanol is also one of our main co-product. We make it the ethanol. And what happened with our ethanol in the situation of the cane and sugar production? And also, if we follow the sugar price in the world market, we can see that the sugar price is not very good. So for the sugar factory to survive, we need to find some other that we can go. So we need to go to see what happened, what we can go there. And finally, I will get a very, very short chart to the research that we have in Thailand. Okay, so we start with the cane production. We know that the sugar is come from cane. So we went back to the cane production and the area that we have for the cane. If we look at this one, you will see that we have from the 2010 to 2019, the cane production in Thailand is gradually increased and it go to the maximum around 2017, 134 million ton cane. And then last year it just dropped to 75.9 million ton, around 30 to 40% less. And at the beginning, before 2017, why we can increase the cane production? We have the increase in cane production we have because the cane area is increasing. What happened there? Okay, you can see from the graph here, we have increase in the area for producing cane. What happened? Because in this time, due to the high production of the rice field, we have a lot of rice there. So the price of rice is not very competitive. So we transform some rice field into the cane field. So we have more cane, more area for cane, and we have more cane there. And also, we have the more cane here. And then we have more area for cane, and we have more cane production. Until last year, we have dropped a lot, around 40% cane loss. What happened? We go to see the weather. If we look the rainfall in Thailand, we can see that, okay, it's over 100. And the cane production usually is follow with the rainfall. Until last year, the rainfall decreased from 121 millimeter to around 93. And then in Thailand, we have the very, very drought situation. We have less rain, so we have less cane there. What happened then? If we put the area, we put the yield, we can see that for the cane yield reduced. Usually, previously we have around 11 ton per ride for the cane. And then when we have less, we have the rainfall less, we have also less cane. And we have more rain, we have more cane. And last year, we have less rain, so we have less rain as we have less cane as well. We have from the cane production in Thailand dropped from 10 to 11 to 7 only. By the way, the right is the area measured in Thailand. 1 hectare equal 6.25 right. The figure is here. Yeah. Then, so now we know about the cane situation. We have less cane last year. What happened next year? Or what happened this year? We will look at that later. Okay. I think many countries who produce the cane and make the sugar will have some burn cane, right? So in Thailand also, we have the ratio of around 65 to 70% burn cane, because in Thailand, usually we have the man labor to cut the cane, and if we burn the cane, it will be easier to cut the cane. So usually we have 65 to 70% of the burn cane and around 30% of the green cane. It was until last year. Last year is very big problem on the weather. In Thailand, we have a lot of problem on the PM 2.5. I think the problem of the PM 2.5 is also in the Southeast Asian area and also happen also in India. I also have seen some problem of the PM 2.5 in India as well. So with the problem of the PM 2.5, even it's not really related to the burn cane because it's just only about 3 months for the whole year. But because of this, the government get the law that, okay, the burn cane in Thailand have to be less than 50%. It is very difficult actually, but finally, the sugar industry finally can reduce the burn cane lower than 50%, which is very quite challenging. And therefore, this year, the figure have to be pushed ahead to be 70%. We will see what happened there at 70%. It should be possible because for the past 10 years, I have never imagined that it is possible to push the burn cane to be less than 50%, but it already happened. So from the cane, we go to the sugar production. If we look at the sugar production in Thailand, the sugar come from the cane, so the ratio of the sugar also come with the cane as well. When we have more cane, we have more sugar. Last year we have less cane, so we have less sugar. We used to have more than 40 million tons of the sugar. And then we have less than 8.3 million tons of the sugar last year, which is also 43% reduced, which caused a lot of problem for the Thai factory. For the export had to be reduced. And for the consumption in Thailand, we have to maintain enough sugar to be consumed in the domestic market. And then when we have the less cane, we have less sugar. What is the sugar production efficiency? We have the black line here. This is the efficiency for the sugar production per ton cane. Usually 1 ton of cane, we can produce around 100 something kilogram of the sugar. we can see that for the past 10 years, we increased the efficiency from 100 kilogram to allow 110 kilogram, allow 10% increase of the efficiency. This is usually come from the new technology that we put into the factory. I can see that the many sugar factory in Thailand go out and collect the new technology to implement into their factory. We can see a lot of new automation in the factory. From about 10 years ago, we see all the crystallization manually working in the factory. Until now, many of them become the continuous automation of the crystallization, and there increase a lot of efficiency there. We hope that for the new technology coming to the factory, it should be able to increase more. By the way, the figure 110 is just the average for the overall country, overall factory. Some factory will have more than this, and some factory will have less than this figure. And then what happened next year, or actually what happened at the end of this year with the incoming milling season? We hope that we will have not much less cane in Thailand. We hope around 74 million ton cane, which is quite optimistic for some prediction. 74 million is come from the government prediction, but from the industry side, they say that okay, it may be less. What happened? Because in Thailand this year, we still have the problem of drought. Not until this month that we have more rain coming, but it is still late for the cane. If we look at the prediction from some conference about 2 months ago by the IWSCT, we can see that all the production over the world for the cane, very, very good. India also have the surplus, a lot of production for the cane in India. Even in Brazil and many countries, Australia also very good, except in Thailand. Thailand, we also have the problem of drought. Even we have a lot of cane, a lot of rainfall this month is still very late. And also the rain is not fall to the cane area. It fall outside the cane area. So we hope that we will have around 70 million ton cane, hopefully. And also with the drought, we also have less area for the cane. You will see for the green line, the area for the cane is reducing. The farmers change to produce the cassava or tapioca because the cane is not working last year, and most of the cane area is very dry, so they cannot continue with the cane. So they change to make something else. So again, the sugar production is still not higher than this year. We expect that we can have around 8 million tons of the sugar. So this is the expectation that we have about the cane and sugar situation in Thailand this year. And also come into this situation, if you follow the news about Thailand, you can also listen to this news. In Thailand from last year until sometime this year, we also have banned 3 chemicals that were used a very long time in Thailand. We banned one pesticide called pyrifos, glyphosate, and one we banned the paraquat. Pyrifos, no problem. We have some chemical to substitute for that. Glyphosate, we can find something. The problem belongs to the paraquat because Thai farmer use paraquat for a very long time with a very low cost and high efficiency. So to ban this, Thailand also have another problem coming that we need to find another way to deal with some weed in the field. Mhm. So this is has to be with the new mechanical way or the new chemical that can be substituted. During the transition from the paraquat to the new method to solve this problem to the new chemical, so we expect that at some part, the cost for the cane production will increase a little bit. With the with the low cane production and the higher cost for the cane production, this will impact for the sugar factory. But we will see, because for the good health of the people, the government have to push this forward. Okay, now we go for the production and for the export. If you can see this, we have less export because we have less sugar. The figure on the left hand is not very updated now because we cannot be the fifth sugar producer and not the sugar exporter because of the late cane and the late sugar. Okay, what happened with the Thai export? Most of the export, if we look at the figure here, it went in the ASEAN country. It's go mostly to the Indonesia. We go some to China, Taiwan, and also Malaysia, South Korea, and some other. Yes. For the Indonesia, for this year and past year, I can see a lot of communication between the Indonesia sugar industry and the Thai sugar industry. We believe that the increase in the Indonesian sugar will increase very soon. The sugar production in Indonesia will be increased. We have to listen in our speaker after lunch to see what happened. Yeah, with the Indonesia, how the boost for the cane and sugar will go. That okay, this is for the raw and the refined sugar that went out for the export. Okay, I take a lot of time, so now we go to some co-product. For Thailand, we have two variables. In the national co-product, we have two parts. One is the cogeneration to produce the electricity. I will not talk about it here because it's quite general that we put the bagasse from the sugar factory to the boiler and produce the electricity. So we have the cogeneration as the main co-product in Thailand. The other co-product in Thailand is the ethanol production. Ethanol production, if you're looking at this slide, we have the ethanol for molasses is around 1,000 million liter. And we also have the ethanol from the cassava is around 300 million liter. And also in the small part, we have the cane juice to produce directly to the ethanol, but it is very small portion. If we looking for the past 10 years, we can see the increase in the molasses to the ethanol, and for the cassava also to the ethanol. We expect next year we will have less ethanol due to the less sugar and to the less cane. And also for the cassava, we can also have less ethanol. If we looking at the world market, we will see this situation. Usually ethanol is used because it can be competitive with the petrol fuel. But with the COVID situation, you can see a drop in the petrol fuel. And then the ethanol competitiveness also reduced. And then to enhance the biofuel in Thailand, it also have to look what happened. But because of the less molar, we have less ethanol next year. And for the cane juice to ethanol, this has to be special permission, because for the Thai law, the juice cannot be used for something else except the sugar. Okay, for the export of the sugar, around 25 to 30% was used for the domestic consumption and 70% for the export. And some other product is that molasses for the ethanol, filter cake we use for the fertilizer, bagasse we use for the cogeneration, and small part to the pulp factory and the particle board. Also, because last year we have less cane, so biomass for the cogeneration is very, very limited. So some other product will be even less to be used. Because of the low cost, of the low price of the sugar in the world market, to survive for the Thai sugar factory, they have to derive to other product. Easier thing is that, okay, make some more chain of the refined sugar. Maybe you have some some addition. In India, you have some spice sugar. In Thailand, we also have to do something else. And also we can make some flavor of the syrup to be sold. But for the overall ratio is still not very high, still very, very little. And also, we also support for the some company. For example, Corbion established a plant or two plants in Thailand to produce the lactic acid. Lactic acid was used as the biodegradable plastic polylactate, and usually most of the lactic acid was imported to make the polylactate somewhere. And then we have the biodegradable plastic. Also, even in India and in many countries in the Southeast Asia, some sugar factory try to get the low GI sugar. Even in India have also low GI sugar. In Thailand also, we also try to make some low GI sugar. We expect that next year we can see some brand of the low GI sugar in Thailand. Okay, with this situation in Thailand, with the problem or many problem, we need new product, and so we need to go into some research. In Thailand, we also have some funding agency somewhere here. With the time, so I will skip it. Usually, for some funding, usually they produce around 2 million USD per annum for the research. And the research will go into how to improve the cane efficiency, how to improve or make the new innovation in the core product. For the sugar production, not really, because the technology, the factory gain the new technology from the outsource. This is the situation that we have. We try to get the drought tolerant to defend for the drought, but it's still on the way, not really finished yet. We also, to get less the burn cane, we need a harvester. We need the machinery to substitute for the man labor. So we have some harvester there. But the problem in Thailand about the harvester should be the same as in India, because we have many small farmer. A big harvester is not suitable for Thailand, so we need to develop a small harvester. For example, something like this. small harvester, not very big, used for the small farm, substitute for the labor to put there. And also with the small farm, we also have the small machinery for the suitable. And for develop about the sugar cane, we also have the technique for the tissue culture to accelerate the development of the variety suitable for the Thailand. And this is for also for the white leaf. We also have the white leaf problem. Uh, Even for the last year and this year with the drought, the white leaf also exhibit a lot, and we need to also have the some seeding cane seed that are clean with the white leaf to make a new plant. Okay, I think that should be all for my presentation. It take more time than I expect, but it is the overall of the cane and sugar situation in Thailand, and also for the some direction that we should go and some research work there. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Virat Vanik Ratna, for your very informative presentation. So thanks a lot for making it a day and being with all of us. I know my second speaker is waiting for quite some time,
Yeah.
but there are
Okay.
few questions, from the delegates. So
Yeah.
this is my duty to just convey all those questions to you. The questions are very, general, and one question is there from Mankapur Sugar Mills, which is there in India. Ki
Yeah.
why burnt cane is more in your country? Why you are not going for green cane, and what are the constraints? Why you cannot have more green cane?
Oh, in Thailand, uh, we have a small farm. It's difficult that you get the harvester into the area. And if you, so usually we get the people to cut the cane in the field. If you burn the cane, the productivity of the cutting is 3 times more than green cane. And when you pay for the people to cut the cane, you pay by the ton cane that you can cut. So if you burn it, you can cut more and you get them more money. So usually when the people go to cut the cane, more or less they prefer the burn cane. Even you don't burn it, sometimes they will burn it for you. So this is why what happened. And what we need to do in Thailand is that we need to do in 2 ways. One is that we develop the harvester that is suitable to the small cane field, small area. And also, if we combine the small area to the big area to be suitable for the machinery, but this is still difficult.
Thank you, because you have also answered my question, because I wanted to know about the status of the small harvester, because our problem is same. You do have the small acreage, and we also do have the small acreage with the farmers.
Yeah.
So the problem is same. Dr. Ratna, there is another question from Mr. Narayan Mahana. He want to know which process do you follow for sugar production?
The process, I have to say that at the moment we don't use the sulfur, because you mentioned at the beginning the sulfur. For more than 10 years, we don't use the sulfur. So usually for the refinery, we use the resin. We use the ion exchange resin.
Ion exchange rate.
Yeah. And then because of the, but we also see some problem there, because if we increase the sugar production, we have to have more resin. And to regenerate resin, you need the sodium chloride. And then if you need more sodium chloride, you also have to have the some way to treat the sodium chloride. This is also the next problem that we foresee. We need to solve this problem as well in the future. Uh-huh. To do this, actually, we try to get some activated carbon. Uh, I I remember when I visit India sometime, you or some factory in India mentioned about the granulated carbon.
Yeah.
We also try to go that way, but it's still under the consideration. Yeah.
Basically, your process is raw refined, and you are doing the decolorization by ion exchange.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Usually, mostly we produce the raw sugar, and some part we make the refined. Yeah.
There is one more question. Quickly, we have to take the question. The question is very relevant because you are talking about less of sugarcane production, sugar production, and there are issues with the rainfall. So,
Yeah.
question is from Mr. R.L. Tamak from DCM Shriram. In view of competition from other crops and also looking to the water and rainfall issues, what is the long-term outlook of the sugarcane crop in Thailand? Because you do have the competition with other crops, you have the problem of the rainfall. So how you look at the sugarcane crop in future in Thailand?
Oh, for the cane crop, for the uh, for the future, because in Thailand, uh, at the moment, you will see if you look back, you will see the circle in Thailand. The Thailand will have the peak cane, and then you have some less cane, and then you come back again, because the cost of cane, uh, in one part you cannot look directly to for the competitive with other plants. The farmer will look only at the price of the cane. So because of this year we have less cane, the price of the cane will be high. The factory will pay higher price for the cane. So next year with a high price, the farmer will go back to plant the cane.
Right.
And then next year will be more cane for the sugar factory. So it's not a long term that we have less cane. Next year it will come back.
Okay, thank you. The last question is, do you consume the raw sugar also?
Yes. No. In
No.
Thailand, the raw sugar cannot be sold in Thailand.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Dr. Virat, for being with us. We troubled you a lot yesterday also. So finally you make it a day. And I hope you
Okay.
continue to be associated with us in future endeavors also, because it is not possible, as our Secretary Sir was also talking about, we cannot meet each other. Otherwise, you were there at National Sugar Institute, Kanpur, and I also got a chance to see you there at Thailand. So
Okay.
thanks a lot from all of us from National Sugar Institute, Kanpur. And now I hand it over to Dr. Ashutosh Bajpai, because we have to hear the view of the encyclopedia of the Indian sugar industry, Mr. Avinash Verma. So it is over to you, Dr. Bajpai.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now the going ahead, the technical second lecture of the technical session will be delivered by Mr. Avinash Verma, who is a very well-known figure. Now I give some brief introduction. He has done his masters in economics from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, India, and he joined Government of India in 1989 and served Indian Railways for 16 years in different capacities. From 2005 to 2010, served in Ministry of Food and Public Distribution, Government of India as Director, Sugar Development Fund at Sugar and Ethanol Policy. After serving Government of India for 21 years, he took voluntary retirement and is working as Director General of Indian Sugar Mills Association since September 2010. He is a director on the board of Indian Exim Sugar Corporation, an apex organization of both private and cooperative sugar mills of India, looking after the export and import of sugar. As a Director General of ISMA, he is looking after policy matters of sugar and ethanol sector in the interest of Indian sugar industry. He has a long association with this industry. And now I request Mr. Avinash Verma to please start his presentation for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vajpayee, and thank you, Dr. Narendra Mohan, for your kind words and introduction. I don't know whether I should be called the encyclopedia of the sugar industry, but nevertheless, thank you very much. I've been here now in this sector for 15 years, 5 years in the government, as you mentioned, and 10 years now as Director General. So, Dr. Narendra, you can see the screen, I hope.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Narendra Mohan asked me to talk about Indian sugar sector, even though it's not very technical because I'm not a technical man. So let me start very quickly. I think all of us know about this. India is the second largest producer of sugar in the world. Now we are producing anywhere around 32, 33 million tons. About 5 years back or 4 years back, we used to produce 28, 27 million tons, but we have jumped now to 32, 30. That's the new norm for Indian sugar industry now, thanks to some very good varieties, good yield, and good production from some parts of the country. We are the largest consumer of sugar in the world at around 26 million tons. About 80% of our revenue comes from sugar. 530 sugar mills across the country are running currently, are operating currently. 50 million sugarcane farmers and their families are directly dependent on sugarcane. On an average, about 5 million hectares of land is under sugarcane, and we pay to the farmers about 13 billion US dollars every year. The per capita consumption of sugar is low as compared to what, at around 19 kilos. We heard the food secretary mentioning that the per capita consumption of sugar has come down. I have a different opinion, and I'll try and convey that correctly speaking, I don't think the per capita consumption of sugar has come down. It is just statistics that probably some report must have worked out, and secretary must have got a chance to read that. Now, 80% of the sugar cane is produced in three states of the country: Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Karnataka. Uttar Pradesh now being the largest producer, Maharashtra being the second largest, and Karnataka being the third largest producer of sugar cane, sugar, as well as ethanol now. Now, sugar cane is the sturdiest crop in the world, amongst all the crops. First of all, and I would kind of point out that in India, it has become the most attractive crop. Why? Number one, obviously, it is a sturdy crop, and I don't have to explain why to some knowledgeable people here. Two, in India, the price of sugarcane, which is fixed by the government of India, gives almost about 50 to 60% more return to the farmer of sugarcane as compared to any other competing crop. And it is not that ISMA is saying that or I'm saying that. These numbers come from the Commission on Agricultural Costs and Prices, which recommends the price for 23 crops to the government of India. It's a government agency, so best remuneration. Third point is that there is an assured buyer. Even if the farmer grows more sugarcane, even if we do not want that sugarcane, there is a law which says all the sugarcane which is grown in our area, we have to buy. So there is an assured buyer. There is no crop in India which has this kind of an assured buyer. They have to struggle to find a buyer for the other crops. Fourth, the price which has been fixed by the government of India as FRP for sugarcane is the price that the farmer gets. No other crop in India fetches 100% of the MSP or the price fixed by the government. There has been a lot of debate on the MSP recently in the country, and I have read a lot of articles from very knowledgeable people who say not more than 10% of wheat and paddy also is bought by the government of India at MSP. So this is the only crop where 100% of the sugar cane is bought by the sugar industry, and that too without a middleman. So we pay directly into the bank accounts, and the farmer gets the assured price. Now, why I'm mentioning these 5 points? Because we have seen that in the last about 7 to 8 years, we have continuously produced more and more sugar, even though it has become surplus, because the farmers continue to find the sugar cane as the most attractive crop because of these reasons. Now, Just a graphical representation. The green bars are showing the sugar production every year since 2004-5 onwards. Now, if you look at the green bars, 2004-5 to 2010-11, one will see that the production in 2 years, it used to dip very badly, and 2 years or 3 years, it used to jump quite substantially. So if you see from 2004-5, from 12.7 million tons of production, we went up to 19.3 million tons in 5-6, but then jumped to 28.4 and 26.4 million tons thereafter. But again, dropped from 26.4 to 14.5 and 18.9 thereafter. We used to have this very infamous Indian sugar production cycle. But since 2010-11 and 11-12, we are seeing that we are continuously producing more sugar as compared to what we require domestically. And I'll show that in the next slide. But the main thing that I wanted to convey here, higher production of sugar directly impacts the sugar prices, which is a known phenomenon. I mean, if the supply is more and the demand is not as much, then sugar prices have fallen. If you look at 16-17, the prices of sugar had jumped, but since the production thereafter was more, the sugar prices have come down. These are the ex-mill sugar prices shown in the red line. Now, as I mentioned, if you really look at the first half on the left side of this graph, one will see that the green bars are sometimes above the black line. The black line shows the sugar sales that we have every year. This is, we generally say this is the domestic consumption, but correctly speaking, these are not the domestic consumption. These are the sugar sales from the factory. So there would be something which gets stuck in the pipeline, or something might be coming out from the pipeline. But generally, if I say that the sugar sales is the black line and the green bars are the sugar production, you will see in 4, 5, 5, 6, our sugar production was below or just about closer to the demand or the domestic requirement. But thereafter it jumped in 6, 7, 7, 8. But then thereafter in 8, 9 and 9, 10, it fell below the domestic requirement. But thereafter, if you see from 2010-11 onwards, the green bar has always been above that line, that black line, which shows the domestic requirement, except 2016-17. So what I'm trying to convey here is that India, except the reason in 2016-17 it had dropped massively, because there was a major drought in the western and southern part of the country, in Maharashtra and Karnataka. And therefore, we had dropped the production that year. Otherwise, if you look at a normal year, in the last 10 years from 2010-11 onwards, we have produced more sugar as compared to what we required. The yellow bars show the opening stocks every year. So if you add the opening stocks, you are much, much above the domestic requirement. And therefore, we in the sugar industry now very seriously believe that India has become a structural surplus sugar producer. And therefore, we also believe that we have become a structural sugar exporter. If you look at, again, from 2010-11 onwards, the red bars actually show the imports and the blue bars show the exports from India, export of sugar in million tons. If you look at 2010-11 onwards, there's hardly any red bar, except for one small year in 2012-13, a very small bar of about 1 million ton or 1.5 million ton, and in 16-17, as I mentioned, because of the drought. Otherwise, we have continuously exported sugar. This year, we expect to do about 5.8 million tons. We've already done 5.6 million tons in the season. So therefore, now we seriously, as I mentioned, India has become a structural sugar a surplus sugar producer, as well as a structural sugar exporter. Now, how does the sugar balance sheet look for the season which just ended on the 30th of September, and how does it look for the next season? The season which ended, as I mentioned, we expect to do about 5.8 million tons of exports. We have already done 5.6 till the end of September, and that is the number that we have taken. What I also wanted to mention here is there has been a lot of talk that the domestic sugar consumption has fallen because of COVID. Yes, it did fall when there was a lockdown in the month of, say, March and April, but then and thereafter, the domestic consumption of sugar has picked up. And I believe it's more because the direct tabletop consumption or the home consumption has increased as compared to the indirect consumption of the industrial houses. The sale that we have made from our factories, and these are the numbers that our sugar factories have reported, on that basis, if I extrapolate, I would believe that in the current season, we would have sold 20, in the last season, which ended on 30th September, we would have sold 25.5 million tons, which is similar to what we did in 2018-19. We were expecting it to be about 26 million tons. So we can say that about 500,000 tons we have sold less as compared to what we were saying. But there were rumors, people were talking about numbers that we were kind of losing, or a destruction of about 2 million tons happened. But that has not exactly happened. So we expect the consumption should have been about 25.5. Next year, opening stock will be around, when we have started on 1st of October with about 10.8 million tons. After diversion of some of the sugar cane juice or B-heavy molasses and ethanol, we expect the production to be 30.5. In the morning, the Food Secretary and the Joint Secretary also spoke about this. The consumption at 26. We expect the government to announce the export policy for the next season very soon, and we expect it to be around 6 million tons, and that is what I have taken at the bottom. And therefore, the next year's closing balance is 9.3. But if the exports of 6 million ton doesn't happen, we have a serious problem. I would just like to go back to the previous slide for a moment. Sorry, I'm not able to go back. Just 1 minute. Yeah, I was just talking about the domestic per capita consumption of sugar. The secretary did mention a year of 2014-15 that the per capita consumption that year was higher, and 18-19 it fell. If you look at the consumption or the sugar sale numbers, in 14-15, if you look at the red block there, the sugar sales was 25.6 million tons. And in 18-19 or 17-18, it remained at about 25.4 or 20 in that range. But if you look at 16-17, the domestic sales had fallen from 25.6 to 24.5. These are not the actual consumption numbers. These are the sugar sales. And therefore, if we take these statistics and divide it by the population, we might get a wrong picture of the per capita consumption. And therefore, what we do in ISMA, we take a 10-year average sugar sales and say that that is the consumption, and then divide it to arrive at our consumption, the per capita consumption. Now, because of the continuously surplus production of sugar, the opening stock in the last 3 years has been massive. It has been extremely high, the highest ever in the history. So 2018-19, we had a burden of 10.7 million tons. In 2019-20, we had a burden of 14.7 million tons of opening stocks as on 1st October 2019. This current season, which has just started on 1st October 2020, it is about 10.7 million tons. Correctly speaking, ideally speaking, the quantum of sugar that we should be carrying in our inventory in the godowns of the sugar mills should be in the range of around 5 million tons, which should take care of the country's requirement for about two months or so, or slightly over 2 months, by which time the new season's sugar can come into the market. So the very reason of having a balance as on 1st October should be to take care of the domestic requirement for the first 2 months, by which time the new season's sugar will come into the market. So therefore, 10.7, we in the sugar industry believe that it is almost about 5.5 to 6 million tons more than what we should be having in our stocks. So the problem that we feel is that the sugarcane farmers get do not get their payment on time, and very large cane price areas get built up every year. We do keep reading in the newspapers about these high and alarming cane price areas of farmers. And second, as I mentioned, very high sugar inventories. So what we have been kind of requesting in the policy making is that the policies from the government or policies from the policies on sugar sector should attempt to take care of the fact that cane price areas of farmers should not get built up and the sugar inventories can be reduced. Now, how can that be done? One, improve the revenue realization of sugar mills. Two, reduce the cost on account of sugar cane, which is the burden on the sugar mills. And three is find ways to reduce the surplus stocks of sugar. And this is what I will talk now in the next 4 or 5 slides. So what is immediately required? Adequacy of returns from sugar. As I mentioned, if our revenue realization is good, then we will be able to pay to the farmers on time. But if there is a big mismatch between the sugarcane price and the sugar price, which is the current situation, then obviously the sugar mills cannot pay to the farmers on time. Because all of us here know that on an average, about 85% of the revenue realization comes only from sugar, and the balance comes from the other products. So the other products do not really matter so much when it means when it actually when we actually talk about the sugar cane price that we have to pay to the farmers. Now, that is the reason why Government of India, the current government, in June 2018 introduced a system of minimum support price for sugar. And they said that the minimum sugar price will be fixed below which the sugar mills cannot sell at their factory gates. Sugar mills, therefore, once they started selling at MSP or above MSP, we were able to kind of control the price crash which used to happen because of massive surplus sugar availability in the country. The MSP which is fixed is based on the estimated cost of production. Unfortunately, the last time that the government has revised the MSP is almost about 20 months back. And that is why we believe that the mismatch between the sugarcane price and the sugar price is there, which needs to be resolved as quickly as possible. The rumors do mention, the news in the press do mention that the government is aware of this, and they are certainly taking some action with regard to the MSP of sugar. Secondly, we know that an expert committee was appointed way back in 2012, and they had recommended a revenue sharing formula, which is a system which is followed almost in all the countries across, all the sugar producing countries across the world, be it Brazil, Thailand, Australia, the European Union, even the African countries, Russia, etc. So the formula which was recommended by the expert committee said that the sugarcane price which should be paid by the sugar mills to the farmers should be at 75% of the revenue realization from sugar alone. And therefore, if we have a back calculation or reverse calculation, we will see that 285 rupees of FRP, which has been fixed by the government, the ex-mill sugar price should be around 38 rupees, just calculating as per that formula, whereas the current MSP is at 31 rupees. Second, how do we address the burden of surplus sugar? The country, traditionally, we have been able to address the surplus sugar problem through two methods. One method, as we all know, everybody in the world is aware, export that surplus sugar. We have done very well in the last season, and the Food Secretary in the morning also mentioned that against a target of 6 million tons, we believe that we will fulfill almost about 5.8 million tons of exports. A similar process can be adopted for the next season, for the new season, which has just started. We also know that WTO allows developing countries like India to give export subsidies on agri products like sugar till December 2023. And the government of India is very seriously looking at slowly reducing the surplus sugar, because by 2023, we have to all be geared up ready to face a situation where the government of India will not be able to give us export subsidies. And therefore, that surplus of 6 million tons that we have, we should from now on try and reduce and divert that into the production of ethanol. And I will talk about ethanol further later on. So number one way to reduce surplus sugar is export. Number two way is to create buffer stock. The government of India did create buffer stock last year of 3 million tons. In the last season, which ended on 30th September, they created 4 million tons. For the current season, we are expecting them to create it very soon. If they create that, what happens? That 4 million tons is taken out from the market, and that reduces the surplus availability in the market and improves market sentiments and prices thereof. Third, and very important, and this is the most beautiful program that the government of India is encouraging us to adopt and encouraging us with all kinds of incentives, be it interest subvention schemes, be it quick approvals, be it the prices for the ethanol, or the OMCs encouraging us to supply over longer distances, or increasing the blend percentages from 10% to higher levels. So currently, if you look at the season which ended on 30th September 2019-20, we did divert some sugarcane juice in some parts of the country. Not many people did because it was the first time that a lot of people were doing it. But a lot of B-heavy molasses, I think almost 50% of the ethanol which got supplied came from B-heavy molasses in 2019-20, which was very encouraging. If we look at the numbers, how much was supplied, unfortunately, it was a drought year for Maharashtra and Karnataka, and therefore not much supplies came from those two states. About 800,000 tons of surplus sugar got diverted into ethanol by diverting that cane juice and B-heavy molasses in 1920. In a way, I would say this is the first year where we have done something seriously to divert a large quantum of sugar into ethanol. Now, if we come to the second situation for the 2020-21, look at the second bullet point, we are targeting to reduce anywhere around 2 to 2.5 million tons of sugar. We know that the government of India has given specific targets to each sugar mill across the country who have capacities to produce ethanol to divert some surplus sugarcane juice and B-heavy molasses into ethanol. So 2.5 million tons from just about 0.8 million tons in 2019-20, and we are sure that we are going to grow and divert larger quantities over the next few years and achieve that target of diversion of 6 million tons of that surplus sugar, which we are forced to export into ethanol production. We know the secretary did mention this in the morning also. Now, those were on the short term and immediate policy. What do we want on the long term? How do we solve the long term problem? As I mentioned in the beginning, the same graph I'm showing here, the problem has come up after 2010-11 because there is no longer an automatic correction of that surplus sugar that we produce in some years. If you go back into the left side of the screen, you will see that 2 years of surplus sugar that we carried got absorbed in the following 2 years when there was a deficit in the country itself. But because that sugar production cycle is not there anymore, we have to divert that surplus sugar elsewhere. So be it in the form of export or be it in the form of ethanol now. So first of all, we have to, if we have become a structural surplus sugar producer, and if we think we are a structural surplus exporter of sugar, we need to follow the international laws and practices to become competitive ourselves. We cannot, after December 2020-23, look at the government to subsidize our exports. The best way to do it, and the expert committees, so many expert committees have recommended this system, is that India should also follow the international practices. If you look at the various formula across the world, they all give a revenue sharing of about 60 to 66% of the revenue from sugar and or the byproducts as the sugarcane price to the farmers. So something like that has to be adopted in India. We have a formula, And the formula I have mentioned here, and all of us are aware of this formula. Beyond this, we have to also remember that we are a country with very small and marginal farmers. They cannot take the burden of wide fluctuations in the sugarcane price because the sugar prices have fluctuated. And therefore, the government is also looking at, the CACP is recommending at a minimum guaranteed price to the farmers. But if there is a gap between what the industry can pay as per the formula and what the government wants the farmers to get, we are recommending for a price stabilization fund, which can take care of that difference in the years when the sugar prices are depressed. So this is how we want to move forward, adopt the global practices along with something which is tailor-made for Indian circumstances, like a price stabilization fund. Long-term policy for ethanol. As I mentioned, this is the most beautiful program, and we know how strongly the current food ministry, the Honorable Food Secretary, Mr. Sudhanshu Pandey, and Mr. Subodh Kumar Singh, the Joint Secretary Sugar, are pursuing. This is being very keenly and personally monitored by the Honorable Prime Minister. He did mention about ethanol production in India in his independence speech. That is the kind of importance he gives to ethanol blending in India. Now, we are looking at a roadmap to move from 10% blending, which we should be achieving by 2022, to move to 20% ethanol blending by 2030. We are also looking at a midway target of 15% blending by 2026. Now, the most important thing to do is to create capacities. Because if we do not have capacities to divert that surplus juice and B-heavy molasses and that sugar into ethanol, we will not be able to achieve this, and we will not be able to help ourselves in reducing our surplus sugar. 6 million tons of surplus sugar over next 3 years, if we are going to divert, it means a reduction in of 2 million tons of sugar every year into production of ethanol, which means every year we should be able to supply an additional 1.2 billion liters of ethanol to the OMCs. Lastly, we need to follow a system which is already there in, say, countries like Brazil, in US, I believe in Thailand also, where we have flex fuel cars which can take any percentage of ethanol and petrol. That is all I had to say about the Indian sugar industry. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Vajpayee and Dr. Narendra Mohan.
Thank you, Mr. Avinash Verma, for your very informative talk. It is always pleasure hearing you talking on all the dimensions of the Indian sugar industry. You have detailed about various short and long-term measures to be taken up. And as you said, this ethanol is going to be the savior of the Indian sugar industry in times to come. So we are also very keen on that, how we can take it forward. And you also know that we are talking about sacrificing sugar to different modes also. So I hope the good days will be back for the Indian sugar industry, and we are all, there, the institute, the industry, and the ministry, which is very keen to see a very sustainable sugar industry in India. So thanks a lot. There is a question for you, Mr. Verma. The question is from Mr. Mukul Mishra. It's difficult for me to answer. It is only you who can answer, because there is something hidden in the question itself. So you can see the speaking of sugar exports in India. Mr. Mishra's question is: does all the export happens through the government channel only, or are there some private shipping which gets unchecked? What are the minimum standard that a particular type of sugar must have to be exported? Who are the firms exporting big chunks, to name a few?
See, first of all, let me tell him that the government of India fixes a quota for each and every sugar mill across the country. They have a target of, say, last year, if I take 6 million tons of sugar export was the target, and that was proportionately distributed to each and every sugar mill across the country. So they are the people who supply that sugar. there is a provision which allows that if I'm unable to move my own sugar, I can take the sugar from another sugar factory which may be closer to the port and use their sugar to fulfill my quota. Now, as far as exports are concerned, I am not aware that any government agency is exporting any sugar at all. So all the sugar moving out from India are by private private exporters or the sugar mills themselves. As far as the quality of sugar is concerned, it is obviously the demand which has to come. If it is for raw sugar, obviously the raw sugar has to go. It again depends what kind of bags they require for white sugar, refined sugar. I mean, all kinds of quality depending on the demand. See, the east part of Africa is a big market for us. They don't require refined sugar, all of them. Some of them have low quality whites also. We have a lot of countries like Bangladesh, Indonesia, which take, and the Middle East, which require raw sugar. That also we supply.
There is, a question on ethanol. There are two questions. I'm merging the two questions into one. The question is one from Mr. Pratik. He's asking about, is there any fixed formula for determining ethanol price every year? So this is number one. And number two is, the question is from someone else. Why the government of India has not declared the revised rate for ethanol as yet?
Yeah, let me answer the first question. Yes, there is a formula, and I believe that the formula was kind of fixed a few years back. And the government officers, there is a small committee which sits together and fits in all the data into that formula, and they arrive at the ethanol prices for different feedstock. Like for C-heavy molasses, there is a particular formula based on sugarcane price. For the B-heavy molasses and the sugarcane juice, the formula is based on the sugar prices because you are sacrificing sugar, so it is linked to the sugar price. Let me also clarify that these ethanol prices are in no way linked to petrol prices, are in no way linked to the crude oil prices. So if the crude oil prices are swinging or falling, the ethanol prices will not change. It is changing only with regard to sugar prices and the sugar cane prices. The formula is very clear. The formula, unfortunately, is not in the public domain. So we don't know how that formula or the calculation works, but it is linked to sugarcane price and the sugar price. That is pakka and that is known. Secondly, on the question why the government of India has still not announced the ethanol prices for the next season, I believe that there has been a different method or methodology this time for by the OMCs. What they have done, they divided the tender into two parts. First part, what they are doing, they are clearing all the technical part of the tender. That means they are approving a list of suppliers of supposing 225 odd suppliers across the country based on their licenses and their technical capability and their capacities. Once that, actually that process takes a very long time. In the previous years, the technical bid and the technical tender and the bidding was done together. This year, they have segregated the two. So the longer process they have almost completed, and now the bidding process will happen, which will be very short. Earlier, the bidding process used to take 2 months because of the technical part. Now, if the tenders come, say, in the next 10 days or 15 days, we believe that the bidding will be faster and we should get the purchase orders before the start, that is the 1st of December. Now, we also read in the news, a lot of news came out in the last 2 days that the government of India has probably recommended to the cabinet, and the cabinet should be sitting and deciding those prices.
There are back full of questions for you, and I am afraid we cannot take up all the questions. But one or two questions we can take. One question is, we always talk about the quantity of the sugarcane which we can, get for the sugar industry, or the likelihood sugarcane production in the country. So the question, another question is, what is your opinion about the recovery of the sugar? Because now we are going to have sugarcane in Karnataka and Maharashtra also, and there is a lot of varietal development. So what is your opinion on the trend of the sugar recovery during the forthcoming crushing season or the crushing season which has started just now. Number two question is how you look into diversion of sugar, because everybody is talking about the quantum of the sugar to be sacrificed, and we are talking about diversion of the cane juice and the bee heavy. So, what ISMA is, thinks of how much sugar we are going to sacrifice for ethanol?
Yes, number one, on the recovery part, um, uh, we all know that northern part of India has improved their sugar cane varieties, and therefore they are getting better yields on in the farm field as well as better sugar recoveries. I remember a state like Uttar Pradesh, which is the largest sugar producer, about 3 or 4 years back, they used to produce about 6 million tons every year. Now they're producing 12 and a half million tons every year without any significant increase in the cane area. Now, if you look at Maharashtra and Karnataka, unfortunately, both these states are almost regularly getting affected due to drought, including Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and Andhra. So, what happens that the sugar cane gets actually spoiled, and the ratoon also they are not able to really manage well. But if you talk about the next season, we have seen the reservoirs, almost all the reservoirs, at least in Maharashtra, Karnataka, are almost full. And therefore, there is no shortage of water. As well as the monsoon in the last, say, 3, 4 months has been brilliant in these areas. So all these factors kind of suggest that the recovery of an yield as well as recovery of sugar from both these states will be much, much better than what we got in the last season when it was affected by drought. Now, the second question you asked me, why are we not diverting sugar directly? And why we insist on sugarcane juice and bee heavy molasses? Now, if the next year was a low production year and there was not much feedstock to convert that into ethanol, I know it made sense to use the other feedstock like sugar and other things. But you have so much of availability of sugar cane next year that you can certainly divert bee heavy molasses and sugar cane juice during your processing. Now, the conversion of sugar, number one, you have already spent that extra amount in crystallizing that sugar after you have made the sugar cane juice. So you've already spent 2 to 3 rupees, stored it for a few months or years, and then you want to melt it and then make ethanol again. So obviously, it's going to cost more, a few rupees more. Now, the government of India, for reasons best known to them, and I'm sure the reason must be that they don't want to encourage diversion of sugar which has already been made when there is enough sugarcane juice and BAV molasses. They have kept the price of ethanol for sugar and sugarcane juice at the same level. Therefore, it doesn't make economic sense to divert sugar which has been produced, melt it, and then make sugar ethanol again. Better idea would be to divert sugarcane juice during the season and divert bee heavy molasses during the off season. We have a very, very big example in Karnataka, and if I am sure he's not going to mind if I take his name, Godavari biorefineries. In 2019-20, the season which ended, they have diverted almost about 36% is the ethanol production and 44% is the, sorry, 54% is the sugar production. So the ratio is 54% sugar, 36% ethanol. Next year, they are looking at a percentage of 57-43. So they are going to divert more of juice and ethanol. And their technology is very simple. They are diverting juice during season and using bee heavy molasses during off season. There are technologies which are getting developed which say that you can store sugar syrup and use it during off season, but it's going to cost you slightly more. And the best man to explain that is Dr. Narendra Mohan and not me about the technology part. But the only answer that I can give you is it doesn't make economic sense to divert sugar into ethanol when you have enough availability of sugarcane juice and bee heavy molasses.
Yes, definitely. I endorse your views. There is no sense in making sugar and then, melting it and making ethanol out of it. The best way you can work on different permutations and combination. And the best way, as you quoted, this Godavari or Shamanur sugars or EID Peri, better to divert your syrup for making ethanol during the season, store your B-heavy molasses for use during the off-season. I think this is the most workable solution for the Indian sugar industry and the remunerative also. So the last question, because I know you have many more meetings to attend. The last question is, because this question is from your member sugar factories, they want a policy assurance. Are you going to continue with the sugar subsidies for exports during the next season also, during the present season also? Or how you look at the things?
From ISMA's side, we have been requesting the government to do it. And I think the best person to answer that is somebody from the government, whether they want to continue it. So, but yes, from ISMA's side, we continue to request the government that on the export, at least till December 2023, they should continue the export subsidies. I mean, obviously, they have a structured plan to reduce it by 20 lakh tons every year. On buffer stock also, we have made a request for them to do it.
So thank you very much from my side, from National Sugar Institute, Kanpur. It is always pleasure hearing you, interacting with you, and you are always the guiding force to the sugar industry. I know you when you were the Director Sugar Development Fund. So we used to get a lot of insight about the how to help the sugar industry, basically. So this we learned a lot from you. So thanks a lot for just exceeding our request. It is over to you, Dr. Bajpayee.
Thank you, sir. Now, after a very informative and good lecture of Mr. Avinash Verma, now the next lecture is from Mr. A.P. Kirtipala. I am giving a slight introduction of Mr. Kirtipala. He is BSc Agriculture and MPhil Agriculture with Agricultural Economics as the field of study. Also, he is PhD in Agricultural Economics from University of Aberdeen, UK. He has almost 30 years experience in agricultural economics research and research management. He is director and chief executive officer, Sugarcane Research Institute from April 2013. He is consultant economist for environmental impact assessment studies in Sri Lanka. Mr. Kirtipala is also consultant editor for the Economic Review Journal of the People's Bank from 2007 to 2012. He is a member in the Committee of Socio-Economist and Policy Analyst in the Council for Agricultural Research Policy from 1998 to 2001 and from 2013 to date. He has published more than 30 research articles in national and international journals, research reports, book chapters, etc. He has received a presidential award in 2013 for scientific publications in 2006-07. So he is a very versatile and very experienced person. Now, I request Mr. Kirtipala to please give his presentation before the participants. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Kirtipala, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Bajpayee.
Yeah. Please start, Mr. Kirtipala. Please start.
Yeah, he's sharing the screen. Hold on.
Can you see my presentation?
Yeah.
You can go to the full screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it is okay.
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 Yeah. First, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the National Sugar Institute, Kanpur, India, especially Dr. Narendra Mohan, for inviting me for this important webinar on sugar supply demand in the Asian region. To start my presentation, as you know, Sri Lanka is a very, very small island. It's about 64,000 square kilometers. So is the sugar industry. It's a very, very small sugar industry in Sri Lanka. So we are importing a lot of sugar from various countries to meet our requirement. So the government has a plan for increasing our local sugar production to meet our requirement, at least by the year 2030, to increase the production for self-sufficiency of the country in sugar. So in this my presentation, first I will present the sugar production situation at present and also in the long run, long-term trend. Then I will speak on the consumption, the present situation, and the long-term pattern. And then I will speak on the challenges that we have to increase the sugar production to meet our national requirements. And then finally, the plans for future for achieving the targets. So to start my presentation on the consumption, before that, sorry, for production, I will show you our main sugar producing areas, sugar mill areas. This map shows the sugar mills. This is one of sugar mills, Sevanagala. Another mill, the Pellata. Is another mill here, somewhere here, the Gallaya, Gurana. Those are three mills that are being operated at the moment. There's another mill somewhere here in the Eastern Province, which is not functioning at the moment. This year, in the 2020, there's a new mill, but still the operations have not yet been started somewhere here. That was started about 3 years ago. It's in commencement. So to start the sugar production situation, as I told you, we have 3 operating sugar mills, Sevanagala, Pellata, and Gurana. The total processing capacity, daily processing capacity is all those 3 mills, very small mills, 6,650. The one at Sevanagala has only 1,250, Pellata 3,300, and the Gurana only 2,000 TCD mills. So total sugar area in the year 2019 was nearly 20,000 hectares. So there are total of about 17,000 growers. There are 2 types of growers, settlers and outgrowers. The settlers, we grow sugarcane and both on rain-fed and irrigation. The rain-fed allotments are about 1.75 hectare and irrigated allotments are 1 hectare in size. The total cane production in 2019 was nearly 790,000 tons. The cane yield was very low, 56 tons average, overall average, 56 tons per hectare. The total sugar production was nearly 57,000 tons. This is about nearly 50% of our total capacity of the 3 mills, and nearly 44% of the total capacity of the 4 mills. And also our sugar recovery rates are very low, 7.2% in the year 2019. And also the cost of production, the average, weighted average cost of production of all 3 mills in the last year was 164 rupees per kg. This is nearly 0.9 US cents per kilogram. We have total of about 7,750 capacity TCD, which can mill about 1.6 million tons, and which has the potential of producing nearly 140,000 tons annually. So the long-term pattern of sugarcane up to about 1986, we had only 2 mills at Kantilanigurana. So the cane area was less than 10,000 hectares. After 1986, another 2 mills were established, Kantilan, Sevanala and Pellata. Then cane area increased. But unfortunately, after privatization of the mills, the cane area started to drop from about 1989, 2000, and then it declined up to about 2011. All the mills were reacquired by the government in 2012, and then the industries getting the cane area is getting increased little more after 2012. The sugar cane production also follows the same pattern as the extent. So the sugar production also same pattern. Now after 2012, the sugar production is gradually increasing. Cane yield is very low. This average cane yield is about 55 tons per hectare long-term average, but it fluctuates between 45 and about 65. But long-term average is very low. Similarly, sugar recovery is also very low. Presently, it has gone down to about 7.2%, but it has during 1999, 2000, it has increased up to about 8.5. The sugar is also follow the same pattern. Average is about 4 tons per hectare, but now it is about 4 tons per hectare. So this is our sugar production situation, and then I will move to the sugar consumption situation. Our total population is nearly 22 million, and then the per capita consumption in the year 2019 is 28 kilograms. Our total sugar requirement is currently it's about 700,000 tons. So the total production, as I told you earlier, 57,000 tons meets only 8% of our requirement. So in 2019, we have imported nearly 550,000 tons. We are importing mainly from India, Brazil, Thailand, Guatemala, those countries. And we are spending a huge amount of money for in exchange. The last year import bill on sugar was nearly 200 million US dollars, which is nearly 1% of our total import bill. And also the feature in sugar demand is very price inelastic. That means the demand for sugar is less than the increase in sugar price. Response of the price change is negative. That is, increase in price reduce the sugar demand, but it is inelastic. So that is nearly 0.5, which means 10% increase in the price of sugar reduces the sugar demand by 5%. So this is a long-term pattern of the demand for sugar. From 2012 from 1978, it has gradually increased up to about year 2000, and then it is remained about between 25 and 35, but the average is about 30. Retail price also, the sugar price, after about the year 2000, retail price of sugar has increased at a higher rate than the previous years. So the sugar price is gradually increasing even currently. The consumption pattern, the price and consumption is negative, and this price is the deflated price at the price of 1978. So the sugar consumption is decreasing with the increasing in price, is exponentially decreasing. As you know, the world price is highly volatile. Because of the we are net import of sugar, world price of sugar directly affects the consumer. So the government has been imposing the variable tariff on sugar to protect the consumer during the price boost, and also to help the sugar producers during the price drops. So you can see here during the price drops, the government has increased the tax on sugar imports. Similarly, during price increases, the government has reduced the import tariff. The total supply of sugar in Sri Lanka, both the production and imports, you can see in this graph, it's a negative relationship, because since we are an importer, so during price increases, the sugar imports have dropped, but the local production has no response to price increase, because we are very negligible. We are producing only a very negligible amount of sugar according to the consumption requirement. The import pattern. So we have been importing before 1977. The imports were restricted. After 1977, after liberalization of the economy, the sugar imports have been increasing. Now it is, you can see in this graph, the sugar imports is increasing gradually at a very high rate, because our local production is very low. To meet the consumer requirement, we have to import sugar. Next, I go to the challenges. Before the challenges, the government target is by the year 2025 to achieve the 50% of requirement, and by the year 2030 to produce 100% of requirement. So for that, by the year 2020, we have to bring the nearly 120,000 hectares under sugarcane, and we have to produce nearly 800,000 tons. And also, we have to produce the byproducts, ethanol, and electricity as well. So these are targets set by the government. Then challenges. As I told you earlier, yields are very low. The sugar recoveries are low. We have to increase productivity, and also we have to reduce cost of production. That is one of the biggest challenge. And then there's acute shortage of labor. So we have to find the solutions to labor shortage. And then spreading pests and diseases. And then we have big competition from other competitive crops. Then sugarcane payment based on quality. At the moment, it is on a weight basis. Then the stabilizing local sugar price because of the high volatility of sugar price in the world market. And then increasing the mill capacities, and also the increasing the processing efficiencies, and also the increasing product diversification, and finally, developing manpower for sugar development. I will briefly explain those our challenges. The increasing productivity and reducing cost. Our targets are increasing the average sugarcane yield up to about 100 tons per hectare. So the most limiting factor is water. So the majority of the area under sugarcane is under rain effect. So in addition, the management practices of the farmers also not very satisfactory. So the sugar recovery is also low because of the poor management, and also the harvesting mature cane, and also the low processing efficiencies. So we have to find solutions to these low productivity, and also to reduce the cost of production, mainly because sugar recoveries are low, mills operating at under capacity, so the cost of production is very high. So the mills have to be operated at its full capacity by supplying the maximum cane required for the mill to be run. These are the average levels as I told earlier. Cane yield average long term 55, recovery 8. So the sugar also low. These are costs of cane cultivation. These are very high. So the returns to farmer on sugarcane farming is very marginal. Similarly, the cost of production of sugar, these are 2019 figures. So it's very high. So this is how the cost of production varied over the years. After 2002, the cost of production has increased rapidly during this the privatizing period, and also even after acquiring the government, the cost of production has not reduced; it is increasing. Then the labor, there's acute shortage of labor, especially during harvesting period. So this affects the sugar farmers harvesting in time. So at least farmers take about 1 month to complete harvesting 1 hectare. So that affects again the cane supply to the mill, and also the subsequent ratoon crops. It's a very big issue in Sri Lanka. Then diseases, the white leaf disease is the biggest threat now, which has spread all over the sugarcane producing areas. It has affected the sugarcane yield and sugar recovery significantly, and also the smart and sugarcane woolly, but also the issues in sugar, increasing sugar cane yield and sugar recoveries. Then other crops, because of the marginal income from sugarcane, farmers move away from sugarcane, converting sugarcane lands to some permanent crops like tea, rubber, pepper, and also the and irrigation, paddy and banana crops as well. So this has affected the sugar mills to get the required quantity of cane to run their mills at their full capacities. Then implementing quality-based cane payment, as I told you earlier, there are a large number of farmers, very small farmers. So the implementation of quality-based cane payment, we have to measure cane quality of individual cane consignments, which is very costly and also very administratively difficult. So the sugar mills are reluctant to adopt this type of quality-based cane payment. So the other issue is the price, the high volatility of cane price, sugar price. So the sugar mills are in a very difficult situation during price drops, to run their mills at their profitable levels. So the sugar mills, they are running at loss during the price drops. So the government has to take action on this issue by stabilizing sugar price at a reasonable level. Then the increase in milk capacities and efficiencies. So our milk capacity has to be increased to about nearly 40,000 TCD, and also the mills have to be modernized. So the issue is the capital intensive. It's very capital intensive. So the government is not in a position to invest on this. So the government is planning for a private sector participation for the sugar development. So this is the issue in Sri Lanka sugar sector. Then the diversification. Sri Lanka produces use sugarcane for sugar in addition to small quantity for sugar using for the jaggery. But the byproducts we are using only molasses. We don't have the excess bagasse for cogeneration. So in the future we have to expand the capacities of the existing mills, and also those mills have to be integrated to increase the sugar and the value-added products. So this again, the capital intensive is a very big issue. Then the manpower issue. Sri Lanka, actually we don't have the required technologists for the sugar development. So our industry faces even for the future to expand sugar industry, we need the trained, experienced people to run the industry profitably. So this requires, since the local universities do not offer courses on sugar technology and fermentation technology, we have to train people overseas and also to get the collaboration with the other sugarcane producing countries to train our people. Then to move to the future plans, this is our the target for the 2025 and 2030. So the total cane area from total capacity from 7,050 TCD has to be increased to nearly 40,000. So this breakdown is for each mill, for mills existing and as new mills. So we have to make a very big investment to increase our sugar production, national production to meet our requirement by the 2030. It's very big challenge. So in 2016, the government approved a sugar policy for the sugar development, which includes institutional policy, investment policy, production and land policy, pricing policy, import policy, water resource development and development policy, and manpower development policy. This policy, the government present government is being reviewed, and the government is in the process of reviewing and also making any revisions required to the present day requirement, and also the making sugar development plan according to this policy to achieve the government target of self-sufficiency by the year 2030. So to briefly outline some of the strategies that we have proposed to the government for to increase our national production. First one is the most important one, the establish sugar board and also sugar development price fund by enacting Sri Lanka Sugar Act. So this is the most important thing, because Sri Lanka needs the proper institutional framework and legal framework to take decisions on sugar development. And also the Sugarcane Research Institute Act has to be amended to meet the present day requirement. So these two issues, government is taking action on this, the institutional and regulatory framework to take policy decisions on sugar development. Then the the improving the farmer sugarcane farming and farm welfare. This is very important for the farmers because farmers are moving away, and also the sugar cane has to be made attractive for the farmers to enable them to supply the required quantity of cane to sugar mills. So the various measures here we have suggested to replace all the disease-infected plantations, and also providing subsidies for the replanting, and also to improve the crop care by providing by reimbursing the cost of pest and disease management, and also weed management, and also provide irrigation to provide some sort of support to the farmers, and also to encourage supply high quality cane by farmers, to make additional payment for the high quality cane before the introduction of the quality-based cane payment, to make payment at least 50 rupees per ton if the sugar recovery is more than 0.1% of the standard. Similarly, the providing loans, low interest loans for the farmers to purchase machinery to resolve the issues of labor, and also there are some issues on land because farmers are not in a position to get loans because of the ownership of the land. So those issues have to be resolved. And also the wild elephant is one of the big issues, so that has to be taken care of. And also as I told you, the collaboration, technical collaboration, and also the training is also very important for Sri Lankan scientists to get trained abroad.
Dr. Kirtipala, can you hear me?
Yes.
We are running out of time. If you can just give some important points and conclude.
Okay. So these are some of the measures, short-term measures, and also we have proposed long-term measures as well to modernize the existing mills, and also to expand the capacities, and also the establish new mills, and also government has proposed the irrigation development committee to provide the irrigation facilities for the sugar development, and also the other infrastructure, and also the human development. We have requested funds from the government to establish a sugar training center attached to the Sugarcane Research Institute, and also we are in the process of making collaboration with the other international sugar institutes to get support from the sugar, train our sugar scientists in the country. So these are these issues that has to be taken care of by the government for our country to achieve self-sufficiency in sugar. So finally, to conclude my presentation, the Sugarcane Research Institute has worked on the technology development, technical issues, but the government has to take action on the policy, and also the institutional matters, and also implementation of those plans and policies for the achieving the self-sufficiency in sugar by the 2030. So with that, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for your fine attention.
Thank you, Dr. Kirtipala, for your presentation. So you need a total overhauling of the system, the total restructuring of the system from farm to factory, because your productivity, the farm productivities are lower, your factory productivities are lower. So everywhere it is wanting, and you need a very holistic and all-around approach to take the Sri Lankan sugar factory forward. Our good wishes are with you. The only, the question which somebody wants to know is on, what is the role of the government? Because you are talking about very high cost of production, the relatively inferior quality of the sugarcane varieties, only 3 factories running. So how you look at the, the government policy interventions, whether they are coming or they are very slow, because in your presentation you have shown that you are into foreign collaborations also. when you were the director of SRI. So we had a discussion on key whether we two institutes can join together, and MOU was also framed. But then there was certain, hiccups, how to sign it, where to sign it, why to sign it. So uh, it is still, not finished. So I wanted to know from your side how now you look at the things, because the things, they take much of time in moving ahead in your country. You are mute. You have to unmute yourself. Dr. Kirti Pala, you have to unmute. Yes, yes. You can speak now.
Okay, okay. Really, after 2019, after the new government came to the power, the government took a decision to temporarily stop signing agreements with the international organizations until such time the government is formulating proper guidelines. So because of that, even after my retirement, the, the 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 successor could not go ahead with the collaboration to because, they are waiting for the government, waiting from the government to get the green light for signing the agreement. That's what happened. And also the government side, sugar development, government is making the policy environment for the condition for the sugar development, and the government has to implement the policy framework, and also the infrastructure should be developed by the government, and also the other the Sugarcane Research Institute, which handles the sugarcane research, has to be looked after by the government. So all those the aspects are looked after by the earlier. The Sugarcane Research Institute was under one ministry, sugar mills under other ministry. Now, at present, all the sugar institutes are under one ministry. Now the government is handling the sugar development, the issues in under one umbrella. So I think in future this will be a good there will be good hope for the Sri Lanka to have the sugar development move forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kirti Pala, for your presentation, accepting our request to deliver a lecture on the status of sugar industry in Sri Lanka. I look forward for more cooperation between the two countries, Sri Lanka and India. We always tried we can have a good linkage between the two institutes also, so that we can have the exchange of faculty, or we can run some faculty development programs also. Fortunately, when you were there as the director, we conducted a faculty development program for your people. They came to the institute, and we imparted them the required teaching and training. So thanks a lot, Dr. Kirti Pala, for being here. We got benefited a lot looking to what you are doing in Sri Lanka. Now we are going to have the lunch break, and before
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohan.
Yeah, thank you. But before we go for the lunch break, there is a small announcement. One is about this program is live on YouTube, so you can watch our proceedings live on YouTube also. Second, which is very important, because we are going to issue the certificates, whosoever is participating in this program, this conference. At the end of the conference, we are going to issue a feedback form, and from the persons we are going to get back those feedback forms, we are going to issue the certificates. So you have to be there till the end of the conference to get the feedback form, fill it, and send it to us. Otherwise you are not going to get the certificate for attending this conference. So this is over from my side, and we are going to meet a 2:15, almost 45 minutes from now, 2:15 Indian Standard Time. We are going to meet again, 2:15, 2:15 p.m. Indian Standard Time. my friends from overseas, they can adjust their clocks accordingly. So the next lecture after the lunch break will be from Mr. Pobi, who is the technical head, Wilmar International Limited, Indonesia, and he is going to make the first presentation 2:15 Indian Standard Time. Thanks a lot. So friends, we are ending the meeting right now, and you can rejoin us at 2:15 Indian Standard Time using the same link. So you can end the meeting right now and you can rejoin us at 2:15 using the same link. हम अभी मीटिंग को लंच ब्रेक के लिए समाप्त कर रहे हैं और हम 2:15 पे फिर हाजिर होंगे. आप अपनी मीटिंग को एंड कर सकते हैं और जो लिंक हमने आपको भेजी थी उसका इस्तेमाल करके हमको दोबारा ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं. हमने आपको बताया कि हम मीटिंग के अंत में एक फीडबैक फॉर्म देंगे. उस फॉर्म को आपको हमको भर के भेजना होगा और तब हम आपको इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में शामिल होने का सर्टिफिकेट इशू करेंगे. तो इसलिए आपको आखिरी तक रहना आवश्यक है. और इस लंच ब्रेक के बाद जो पहला लेक्चर होगा वो मिस्टर सुबोंधु पोबी का होगा, जो कि टेक्निकल हेड है विल्मार इंटरनेशनल लिमिटेड इंडोनेशिया के. तो 2:15 इंडियन स्टैंडर्ड टाइम पे आपसे फिर मुलाकात होगी.